What up, homies? Jai got me into a mobile game called Disney Heroes Battle Mode, or DHBM for short, and now I have no choice but to make a video about it, or I'll never feel like I've admitted to the truth that I play a Disney game competitively now. If you play this game as well, please keep watching so you can learn how to go from not understanding how to build a strong team to being that one player that literally rewrites the meta for everyone else. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the 4 stages or levels of skill regarding the ability to build a team. FYI, the simple act of watching this video should be enough to bring you into levels 3 and 4, so stick around and get good. Level 0 or 1, depending on how you look at it, of team building is where people generally start out when playing. And at this level, your strategy for who to include on a team is either completely non-existent or is based on characters you like. I'm a pretty competent gamer myself, but despite this, I came into the game building teams based on characters I liked and not tying it strongly to what was going on in the game itself. The simple explanation for this is that even if you're a strong gamer and strategist, you just don't know enough about the game mechanics to operate at higher levels of team building yet, and starting here is just the reality of it. I really enjoyed the Wreck-It Ralph movies, so even as I unlocked much better heroes, I continued to use Ralph and Vanellope. I think I used them all the way up to level 50, something like that. However, another character that I consistently used was Mr. Incredible, because Jai and others clued me in early on the fact that he was a strong hero. This brings us to level 2. Level 2 of team building in Disney Heroes is all about using the heroes that you consider to be strong. When I started playing the game, 2 things I learned were that people considered Mr. Incredible to be one of the top heroes, or one of the top tank heroes in the meta at that time, and that new heroes were always considered overpowered. At this time, Cheshire Cat was the sign-in hero, meaning it was a brand new character that could be unlocked by logging in daily. I noticed that when the cat used his green skill, it tended to instantly KO an enemy hero, and that was enough for me. My teams during level 2 tended to revolve around characters such as Pooh, Mulan, Joy, Pleakley, the cat, Powerline, and other characters that were considered S tier by the DHBM community. However, these teams tended to not have any synergy. Level 3 of team building incorporates the tenets of level 2, but is willing to stray into the weaker hero pool a little bit more in favor of synergizing teams around their abilities or effects. This is where we start to see teams that are strong enough to be the meta, types of teams that have their own names. An example of this would be the Freeze team, which is a team that literally revolves around freezing the opponent team endlessly until they can be knocked out. A team with this idea in mind might include any heroes with freeze abilities, and one example of this could be Elsa, Kristoff, Powerline, Mr. Big, and Olaf. All 5 of these heroes can freeze the opponents, and several of them even have skills that strengthen freezes for the full team in various ways. For example, Kristoff's purple skill increases the duration of freezes by 35% for the whole team. So this is a legitimately powerful team composition that could carry someone through the arena ranks pretty effectively for quite a while, and this tends to be the case for most teams built at the 3rd level of skill. My best team at the 3rd level of team composition was a Silence team made with Mushu, Angel, Disgust, Sadness, and Gerald. Teams at this level can overpower each other by simply being an uneven matchup, by using better heroes, or by being more cleverly designed. Level 4 team building is the most conceptual in nature, meaning these teams work by principle instead of by power. Before I explain, I want to make it clear that level 3 and level 4 teams tend to be roughly equal in capability. To be more precise, level 4 team building has the potential to make the strongest teams in the game, but it is harder to successfully build a team at this level, and many level 4 teams can turn out weaker than level 3 teams. This level only becomes necessary at the highest ranks of the games, where people have maxed out their heroes and they are clever enough to pick apart your level 3 teams. A level 4 team is still working with the strongest heroes possible, just like level 2, and still favors synergy when possible, just like level 3, but the core concept of a level 4 team moves a step above synergizing by effects. No, these teams are instead built around a common plan, theme, goal, or approach. My first team that began to dip toes into this 4th stage was built on synergizing shield abilities, but with the addition of Bunsen and Beaker. The idea of this team was that the Beaker clones would become shielded tanks and soak all of the damage up, eventually exploding and being replaced, overrunning the enemy team with clones, and winning. Li Shang might be on this team, Slinky Dog would be on this team, and probably somebody like Baymax would also be on this team. Other examples of this would be my current team of Disgust, Sadness, Bunsen and Beaker, Basil, and Kermit. Disgust silences the enemy team so they don't interrupt, while Kermit first places invincibility on a clone, then eventually duplicates the invincibility to the whole team. Sadness deals damage with her cloud ability that continues to ramp up very quickly as clones die, and if all goes well, Kermit and Sadness are able to protect Basil for long enough for him to wipe out the enemy team with his white skull. As you can see, this team works not on synergy but on a specific plan of attack. Another example of a level 4 team that I'm currently working on leveling up is a team with John Silver, Demona, Beast, Disgust, and Kermit. The idea here is that Demona can't be knocked out until everyone else on the team gets wiped, but John can become immune to damage from any opponent that is studied, and he studies them himself. Meanwhile, Beast becomes Berserk if his white skill is activated, meaning he cannot fall below 1 HP. Kermit puts invincibility on a teammate, and Disgust both suppresses the enemy team while this is all happening and deals a lot of damage. Finally, Kermit eventually activates his white skill, which will duplicate the invincibility as well as the Berserk from Beast. If Disgust has her red skill activated, Kermit will duplicate buffs on her as well. Alright, please let me know what you thought about this tutorial on team composition skill levels and tell me whether you'd like to see more of this game. If this video can hit 15 likes, I'll take that as a sign that the people need more Disney. Thanks for watching, and go ahead and share a link to this video with your guildmates so they can compete with my guild for strongest in the universe. See you next week.